Hi everyone, I'm Joanna and welcome to my channel In All Seasons Homestead. Today we are going to be doing a pantry clean and restock. So please join me and let's get started. So as you can see, my pantry is messy, even dirty, disorganized. I have been bringing in the harvest from the garden and doing a lot of canning. And so I really need to get things on the shelves wiped down, vegetables put away, and things just sorted out. I also need to move any of last year's jars forward and put my new jars behind. So usually when I get done canning something, I put it next to my stairs, next to my stove up in the kitchen, and then I bring them down the next day after I make sure the lids have sealed and popped, and I put them directly on the shelves. But then I was thinking, well, why not go ahead and stack and clean with my YouTube audience? But actually that kind of made a worse scenario, a worse mess for me because it built up next to the door. So that process did not work very well at all. I really need to go back to what I've always done and just bring one load or one harvest down at a time and just get it directly on the shelf. But today I'm going to go ahead and put all of last year's tomatoes on this side, on the left side. And I think I had about 36 pints of tomato sauce left over because last year was a wonderful amount of tomatoes, and so I really thought I was going to go through more than that, but for some reason I didn't. I think I used more quarts than anything. So I'm going to put last year's tomatoes on this side. That way I can have room for this year's tomatoes on the right side and then just work my way over. We really need to build a couple more shelves. I don't really like to stack jars on top of jars. I did separate them a little bit by keeping them in the original cardboard flats, but ideally I would like to put a middle shelf right there just to kind of avoid stacking jars. I've never personally had problems with anything, but I heard that some people have problems when they stack jars on top of jars. But for now, this works just fine for me. And I think we go through things so quickly anyway. They're not here for years and years. It's just months to about a year and a half, really. So now I'm working on the salsa. It's the same thing. I'm going to put last year's salsa to the left and then the new salsa on the right. And I think I only canned one round of salsa this year because, like I've said before, we did not have a good tomato crop. They started out absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, and I thought that this year was going to be the best year of all. But of course, with tomatoes, there's always some kind of problem. And this year, our tomato plants, we had a really dry spring, so we had to water, but still they were growing big and beautiful. But then in the middle of summer, we got a lot of rain, and the fungus that the tomato plants got, I got rid of that pretty easily. I'm really surprised about that, but still there was just too many things that was coming up with tomato plants. So this is all of the pints of tomato sauce and salsa that I have, and it is a lot less than last year. Up at the top, I have last year's quarts, and I'm really surprised again that I had some left over, which was a wonderful blessing because, like I said, we didn't have many tomatoes. So hopefully with last year's and this year's, we'll see how far that gets me. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the top shelf also. It just gets dusty and Asian beetles and, things like that. And instead of taking everything off of the shelf, I just move them to one side, dust, and then move them back. I think it'd be just a lot easier and a lot faster than taking everything off, putting it on the floor, and picking them back up, because it's not really a deep clean of the pantry. It's just a little bit of organizing, wiping down. But the floor, you will see here in a little bit, the floor is what needs to be deep cleaned. So this small green shelf holds my jalapeno slices, and usually it's full of tomatillo salsa, and that is one thing that I did not can this year. Our tomatillos did absolutely horrible. It's very disappointing, but I did can a lot of hot sauce that you see down there. The red jars are hot sauce, and a few ketchup from last year. And now I'm going to remove most of my onions. Actually, at the end of this day cleaning, I removed all of the onions. For whatever reason, the onions did not last long at all. The fruit flies took over, and most of the mess on the floor is from rotting onions. And I was very sad about that, because my onions were very big and beautiful, and they just did wonderfully this year. Usually the onions last me 6 months, 8 months, and then I have a few left up to a year. But I know that the rain got to some of them when I had already harvested them. So I'm wondering if that was the problem, that they just got wet during the curing time, or maybe it was just because it was too warm in the pantry, or fruit flies, I don't know, or maybe all of the above. But I had to take out the onions, and you can see right there that brown circle is part of the rotted onion juice that dripped down. I was so upset, and it was a lot of work to get all that stinky onion cleaned up. But in the end, it all worked out. It's all cleaned up, and it's a thing of the past, and I just have to keep moving forward. And every year, it's just, challenges arise, and things don't always work out the way you want them to. But I just had to try my best and try to figure out what to do next year so that won't happen again. Next up, I'm going to wipe down this other shelf. This is where my corn and green beans typically go. So again, I'm going to do the same thing, move my sweet corn over to the left, and then make room for this year's corn on the right side. And then just when we need something, you just work your way from the left to the right. I still have some carrots from last year also. We don't really use canned carrots too much. I remember growing up, we used canned carrots all the time. But for some reason, I just don't really cook with them too much, and I did not can any carrots this year. This right here is a rotted pumpkin. That is the source of my fruit flies. So I vacuumed up fruit flies for several days, and I finally got ahead of them, and they're gone. But I was wondering, where are all these fruit flies coming from? And it was from that rotted pumpkin. They got shoved behind the potatoes, and I have to take all these little potatoes out of this apple basket because the rotted pumpkin soaked through the basket. So I had to take that outside and scrub it. And this was quite a bit of work to clean up this rotted pumpkin mess. But I'm so thankful that I found it, and the fruit flies are finally over. But I just want to show you the reality of pantry. Sometimes it's a lot of time and management to not just keep things stocked up, but when you're bringing things from the garden, it's a lot of rotation and keeping an eye on things, making sure things don't get shoved behind something else. And it is a lot of work, actually. So I did a little bit of restocking the beans and dried peas and things like that, but I actually went to the store another day after this, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. I actually went through all of those lentils, believe it or not. So they are gone. I think that's like 2 or 3 pounds of lentils, but we love lentils. I make them all kinds of ways. These are the rest of our onions, the only good ones left. It's very disheartening, but I put them in our downstairs refrigerator so the fruit flies could not get into them anymore. So after I moved everything in the corners and along the wall, I scrubbed that by hand, and then I moved everything back, and then I did one final mop in the middle. And then over here next to our wood stove, we just brought in the butternut squash, the rest of the butternut squash, and the honey. Okay, this is a different day. I brought home some dried goods from the store, from the market that I usually shop at for things like dried beans and peas. These are garbanzos, and I still need to stock up on some more of those because we go through that quite fast. And that's one thing I want to can this winter, just to have some quick canned garbanzos on hand, because we can make things like hummus, and there's a pasta that I really like to make. So you just pop open a jar of garbanzos and they're ready to go. So I need to stock up on more of those. I think some people call them chickpeas. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, when I say garbanzos, they're also called chickpeas. And then I love these split peas and red lentils, dried lentils. Brown lentils, and there's split peas. And so I'm just looking through my spices to see what all I have, and I think I'm pretty good on them. I just need to get a couple of more things, and these are rolled oats, so I like to keep those in the big gallon jar. I have one extra box on rollers, and that kind of holds various things, just random beans and oats and things like that, that if I already have my jars full, I just put the extra bags in there. And I found a couple more bags of garbanzos, so that filled up that jar nicely. And then these orange little discs, these, I'm not really even sure what they're called. They're just like a little snack, and I dropped them on the floor. But this is one of my husband's favorite snacks. All right, I'm back in the pantry, and this is maybe a week later after I cleaned the shelves, and I'm gonna just give you an update and show you the progress. I brought in the sweet potatoes, and so they're on this shelf drying. And then I also have a few upstairs in the kitchen I just left in a basket because I'm going to cook those soon. Got most of our potatoes down here, the little sweet potatoes. I got the butternut squash, and I got our corn to make tortillas. We got a bushel here, and then we have almost another bushel in the other room, and we've already been working on that. The things I have left to do, I still have to string all these chilies, all these serranos. We use a lot of dried serranos for salsa, so I need to get that done, and those are going to be strung up, and I have all of these nails, and that's where they'll dry. And then I also, here's some from last year, I also have nails by our wood stove, and I dry a lot of peppers over there. Things that I need to do through the winter are always canning chicken broth. I'm always working on that. And then I'm going to can some more beans. And then I thought I was doing well on the whole restock, but I ended up making a list because there are still things I need to buy and I need to make. And one of the things are some more lard. This one's completely gone. And then this 3-gallon one is halfway. So I need to work on some lard and get those two filled up. Another thing I need to do is strain the apple cider vinegar and get that put back in this. This one is still last year's apple cider vinegar. So this jar here, once those two will get strained, they should fit properly in that gallon right there. Another thing I need to do is make another batch of vanilla extract. I have one up in the kitchen and then this one. So I need to fill up these bottles. I ordered some new, I think I got Madagascar. I think that's my favorite flavor. I got Madagascar coming in the mail, so I can start the vanilla extract soon. Another thing I need to do is buy a couple more roller buckets or some kind of airtight bucket, because my father-in-law got me some Jamaica and some guajillo peppers, and they're in really big bags, and that roller bucket is already full of dried peppers of all varieties, so I need to get those stored in something. So that's another thing on my list to do. And then as far as things that I've bought, little things like peanut butter and mayo, tuna, I want to get that stocked back up a little bit. But my beans and peas, all of that is almost stocked up. I think I need to get some more lentils because we go through a lot of lentils. I love lentils. And I need to get some quick oats and maybe go ahead and get another bag of rolled oats, because with the winter coming and the baby coming, I want to get this pantry super stocked. So I would say I'm only halfway there. We have 2 things of yeast left. I think the spices are okay. Besides like yeast and baking powder, maybe another cocoa powder. I had 3 bags of lime, and I use that for water glassing eggs. And then we also use it for the corn. You have to do a lime bath for the corn. That's another subject for another day. So I do need to stock back up on a couple of bags of lime, but I think everything is done. Well, not everything's done in the garden. I still have some cabbages to get, some broccoli heads to get, and some carrots. Other than that, the garden is completely empty, besides planting the garlic for next year. Another thing I need to do is harvest the rest of my honey. That is from last year. There's not much left. And then this one is from this year. And I still have 2 more boxes of honey to get off of the hive and drain the honey. So I still have quite a lot left to do. I thought I was going to be done this week, but I mean, straining apple cider vinegar is quick. Pouring those into a bucket are quick. The honey is quite a process. The lard is a little bit of a process, but I'm almost there. At least the canning is done. Besides, like I said, the chicken broth and the beans. I'm going to try to do a little bit more of that before the baby comes. I also need to figure out some storage for these rings, but I don't know if I'll get to it soon. Other than that, I just wanted to give you guys an update and show you how the pantry restock is coming along.